Making a video. Going for dirt again and such. On the run and whatever. Cat is a little more limpy in his old age. Anyway, packages. Lots of biting things out. I was thinking, the metaphor thing, coming up with metaphors, analogies, stories, to make it kind of understandable. The simple argument that, the good stuff, the satisfaction or gratifications of our addictions, comes at just too high a price for all the failures. It's like if you could look at gambling, and if you really could see, like when you went to the casino, if you saw all the people ruined, by their abuse of gambling, all the hardship endured, all the ruin, it's like even the lottery tickets, if you could see what it meant or means. I guess they use that technique with the cigarettes smoking, putting the cancerous lung pictures on the packages as if, that says something. But of course, that's the problem with all these techniques. You can apply them reasonably or unreasonably. And, obviously that's a different kind of risk equation. And it's one where you're going to die of something anyway. I mean, you can't really scare me with a cancerous lung when I know I'm going to have a cancerous pancreas or a cancerous something else anyway. I mean, I'm not getting away without having something go bad. And all we're really arguing about is time. And dying when you're old or dying when you're really old. I don't know if that much of a difference there. Truth is, we never want to do it. We always want to put it off. So that kind of spoils that kind of logic. But anyway, the idea of understanding or recognizing that there's a price paid for your party, and I suppose even a party. The good time for all the good time Charlies. There's the people with the hangover the next day, and didn't have a very pleasant night. And if you could feel their pain, so to speak, as a mixture with your little happy bits, maybe you'd say it wasn't really worth it. The analogy that sort of gets to me is one where, if you were going on a trip and you knew one person would not have a good time, very sick, very uncomfortable, and would just still go for your little happy trip. It's not a trip where you have to go. It's not something necessary. It's just a pleasure thing. You want to do it. It'd be fun. And because that's pretty much the attitude of most procreators. They want to do it. It'll be fun. And there's not much contemplation of, not much perspective applied. And I guess you could even go back to the, all these, these different circumstances with their different, the different. It's one thing to show a cancerous lung to somebody who's addicted. It's another thing to show it to somebody who never smoked a cigarette. Maybe they might say, well, gee, I've lived without it. It's just kind of smelly, and most of the smokers are coughers and stuff. They don't look all that healthy. You could always come up with some kind of reasoning. And if it wasn't for adolescent bravado, I mean, I don't think I would have been a cigarette smoker. I really don't. It was just you got to be cool, and smoking back then was cool. Kind of, mostly. It certainly was it was sort of an anti thing to do. So yeah, you're not supposed to do it, so you do it because you're not supposed to do it. That kind of thing. You know, as soon as somebody makes something taboo, you know, the illogical monkeys will say, I want it because you're hiding it. You know, and that's how shamefully adolescent you know, our psychology is, especially when we're adolescents. And unfortunately, decisions that affect the rest of your life will be made in that atmosphere. So that's another point to be made, is that most of the procreators, most of the people who get attached to baby making, get attached to it young. So if they have a kid before they're 18, they're more likely to have 3 or 4 than if they wait. These are just kind of facts, you know, surrounding the subject. And so, obviously, a great deal of thought isn't what you're getting from most of the people who are doing this thing called parenting. And that should scare people. I mean, it should put some pause in people's minds to say, at least, you know, maybe this conversation needs to take place about, you know, the responsibilities of baby making, and that it isn't some sort of right, that it's in fact a privilege that you have to earn, and even if you want to, I mean, privilege is just some sort of, you know, kind of a silly word, but I mean, it's a, you know, you want something, you call it a privilege, because it's not a necessary thing. But even if you were to consider it I mean, I just can't get away from the idea that it's a huge responsibility first and foremost, and that it can't even be considered something you have an entitlement to until you can demonstrate you have adequate competence. I mean, it's certainly as important as driving a train or something, or a truck or a plane or something. It's a responsibility first, and you sure have to demonstrate that you've put the time in to be able to appreciate what the business you're getting into, and what the liabilities of that business are. And obviously most of the procreators don't do any of that. That's why most kids are on food stamps, is because most people having kids shouldn't be having them, because they haven't taken care of business. They haven't you know, managed to even take care of themselves, let alone be able to take care of a new life that they've imposed. So, yeah, I'm really not getting to the real point was these different metaphors, and you know, trying to find one that might mean something to you as a story of unseen, you know, what you're not appreciating, and how what you're not seeing is often much more important than what you are seeing. You know, you're seeing the party, but are you seeing the person puking their guts out in the bathroom or something? You're seeing the you know, the fun of driving your car 100 miles an hour, but are you seeing the you know, disabled people who were ruined because you know, somebody couldn't handle the speed and you know, put somebody else in a wheelchair? You know, when you're out at a bar, do you actually consider, you know, what the statistics might indicate, that you know, if there's 100 people in that bar, that maybe one of these people is going to hurt somebody tonight, maybe themselves, but you know, in a catastrophic way for this fun you're having. You know, just a fair question, I think, and it's fair in every circumstance, because like some of these things you just say, okay, some things are necessary, some horror, you know, to have a bridge across a river or something, you're risking that somebody's going to die building it, and you know, certainly coal mines and all that kind of stuff, and you know, and people just don't have, we just don't have any appreciation for the blood that's on things. I've used the analogy in trying to get people to appreciate the value of money, to recognize that its real value is in the blood it takes, you know, that people will accept having spilled to obtain it. That's its value. Its value is in the measure of the pain that the inconvenience and the toil that is the creation of the productivity that makes its value. And we shouldn't have pictures of presidents or queens, same difference, right, on our money. We should have pictures of workers, and maybe even people who died, you know, giving you a piece of civilization, because that's where the real value is. And so I guess it's just this, you can't really fairly label life, the ingredients. Well, it can, we can try. I guess I would argue is that the optimists wish to negate any such effort to account for themselves, because the optimists are basically nihilists and selfish, and they wish to keep the game a personal game, and they don't wish to accept that their play is expensive. Yeah, so they're just cheaters, in other words. Yeah, cheating the truth that this isn't, there's no harmless game play. There's no living a harmless life. You can just try to minimize risk and damage, but in all likelihood, you know, just the air. I've said this before, but I mean, this is I think it's meaningful. I mean, just the air you're breathing right now, a huge piece of the biosphere, a bunch of organisms, a zillion of them had to live and die in pretty horrible ways to produce the atmosphere you're breathing. And certainly the food you eat, no matter what it's, even if it's vegan, it's still expensive, very expensive. And yeah, there's no solution to that. There's no, you know, you're not going to fix it. So you're not going to make a rational argument evading it, in my opinion. So yeah, the only choice for people who are totally intractable in their sense of entitlement to their rich life. You know, speaking of rich, they had a big party over here for an 8th grade graduation. You could hear it all the way at my house. You know, 8th grade. Anyway, so I'll go do my running and be back. So I'll be going that way, and then I'll be going that way. So, fill soon, almost immediately for you. Back just looking at the field from the other end. Yeah. Very nice here. Seeing if any of my golf balls are around here. Every now and then, you know, I hit from over there usually. Ball hits one of these rocks, and who knows where they go. Anyway, where were we? Yes, gaining perspective. I guess that's what it's a point. I mean, it's just this idea, you know, you have thoughts. You're doing some sort of highlight, whatever that is. Air croquet. That's what I'll call it. Chicks in that orange stuff. She looks like fishing bait or something. Anyway, helping little brother out. Yeah. So, sorry, it's a little distracting. People. Always. Constantly. Anyway. Yeah, perspective. So, it's just, you know, really obvious in my head that, you know, even if you offered me some sort of really great life, $1 billion or something, and you know, the catch was you're going to give a kid cancer. I mean, would you take the money? I mean, knowing, you know, being an adult, let's say you're an adult, have a little bit of knowledge of the world. Do you really think your happiness, the little bit of difference it's going to make, is enough of a difference to justify that? You know, let's say the kid doesn't die, they just have to have treatment for 2 years or something. Too high a price for me to take the money, you know, especially if I get to look at the kid, you know, see him or her. Yeah, just ain't gonna happen. You know, I would have perspective enough to say it's too tainted, it's dirty. You know, and so I'm just using different metaphors, getting to that cost to benefit analysis, and just trying to persuade you of the argument that you really do know, if you think about it, that it can't be right, that an intelligent thing wouldn't play with suffering that way, wouldn't accept any bargain like that. They'd refuse, they'd have a sit-in, you know, they'd protest and say, it's not what I bargained for, it's not what I signed up to be. Just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm going to be a bug. And so I just think if people really thought about it, they can figure out that they're not doing anything marvelous enough, you know, spectacular enough. Their struggle with their, you know, short, narrow, hedonistic desire. I mean, that battle, you know, just isn't one worth fighting, and it's not worth paying much for. It's territory that has no value if you're looking at it in a war or something. It's like fighting over some Iwo Jima, you know, lava pit. It's just not rational. It's not reasonable. And it's only a bunch of sloppy and stupid circumstances that have us in a position where so many of us think this is a good enough game. They'll play by these rules. They'll play lifeboat because they think, they got a good seat, they have an oar handy, and I guess they think they have the gun. And so the shit is, whatever's going to hit the fan, it ain't going to be their shit. So way too much of that kind of optimism floating around. And you see it. Saw it in my own sister, who had survived cancer and then decided to have a child. Because that was just really dumb. It's just it's not a rational calculation. The failure is too catastrophic, and the victory too superficial. It's all lollipops. You people aren't desiring to save the world or cure cancer or, give every bug a Nestle's Crunch bar. Your ambitions are just silly personal crap, that can just as easily be migrated, to a good movie and a bowl of popcorn. You really don't need all the hoopla of fulfilling your actual ambition. All you need is a good enough pacifier. Ooh, yeah, that's the way to put it. Yeah, you just need something synthetic, to satisfy your little boob chewing desire. Yeah, and to think of all the horror endured, because you people can't just admit, it's not a good enough game to perpetuate. Play out your hand. We've already paid for these cards that are dealt, so let's play a good game with them, but let's just not deal any more hands. If you're in the casino, go ahead and gamble, but don't build any more casinos. You bought the bottle of booze, don't put the bottle in the kid's hand. Don't create another asshole looking for a fix. And that's all we are. These assholes looking for a fix. Literally and figuratively. Metaphorically. Because the fix is our desire. The fix is the need machine. That's how it functions. It's perpetually broken, in need of repair. And because it feels good to fix it, you think that's an accomplishment. Certainly not an accomplishment to build another broken one, another thing that needs. Yeah. So, I think I've done my job once again. Pretty much. Now, what else is news? Really is no other news. This is the biggest story to be told, is getting a grip on this life thing. And I've made this point. I made it to somebody just the other night or something. But if we spent 1,000th of the resources we spend on healthcare, just 1/1000th of that money preparing people for death, and that is like having conversations about it, making movies about it, maybe, you know, about the whole idea of letting go and the fact that you're afraid of dying. You're not really afraid of not living, and you know, especially when you're getting older, people, they just cling because it seems like work dying, and they just want to put it off another day. You know, if I don't have to do it today, they don't. And you know, that's all psychology, and we should be working on that, trying to make it easier for people to let go, you know, and to recognize that we're all going to let go. We're all going to have to face the sad truth that it's game over, and unfortunately most of what we were is going to be erased from the cosmic memory, and it really was just a kind of silly adventure, just kind of crass and superficial, just a little bunch of nose picking and itch scratching, not much else. Yeah, well, so I added a little bit extra. See if I can find a little bit more in my brain. Yeah, but it is, you know, just the psychology, and the psychology is perverting people's perspective and forcing them, just basically forcing them in a way to turn the truth upside down and pretend animals don't feel, pretend that they're having a good time, you know, fighting every day, you know, just to get their bread and water and not lose a leg or two, and that they spend a great deal of their existence, they will spend a great deal of it on average, thoroughly damaged, picked apart, piece by piece, bit by bit, like a zebra's hind legs. There will be scars. Anyway, from the near misses, and there's a lot of near misses. Okay, now it's enough, I think. Look at that, somebody left me a cigarette here. Nothing in it though. Bastard. So, yeah, so I think we've completed the video presentation for the day. I really am feeling the age thing. I used to like running. I mean, yeah, there was the, you know, the first bit was always a little bit rough, but you'd have that second wind kick in, and you know, your muscles would feel like they're doing something. now it just feels like my bones are gonna break, or it all feels like I'm leaking oil. Yeah, it just seems like such a hard struggle. So, all right. Until the next time, such lovely. Oh, I keep saying that, don't I? Marvelous. It's marvelous. 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 It's all very marvelous. Okay. Until next time, and such.